Have you ever walked into a conversation feeling confident and walked out of it feeling completely unsure of yourself? At the beginning, everything made sense. You knew what happened, you knew what was said, you knew why something didn't feel right. But by the end of the conversation, everything had changed. Now you were the one explaining yourself. You were the one apologizing. You were the one questioning your own memory. And the strange part is, nothing obvious happened. No shouting, no threats, no aggressive behavior, just a conversation. But somehow you lost control of it. This is not random. There are specific psychological tricks that manipulators use to control people without being noticed. And once you understand how these tricks work, you start realizing how often they happen. In this video, we're going to break down 7 powerful psychological tricks manipulators use to control you and why they are so effective. Most people think manipulation is obvious. They imagine someone being aggressive, controlling, or clearly toxic, but real manipulation is much more subtle. The most effective manipulators don't force control. They create it. They shape how conversations unfold. They influence how you feel. They slowly change how you interpret situations, and over time, they create something very powerful: influence over your perception. These tactics don't happen all at once. They happen gradually, and that's exactly why they work. Because by the time you notice something feels wrong, the pattern is already established. Let's break it down. Trick 1. Blame shifting. Blame shifting is one of the most common manipulation tactics, but what makes it dangerous is how natural it can sound. Let's imagine a situation. You tell someone, "That hurt me." A healthy response would be, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean that." But a manipulator responds differently. They might say, "Why are you always making everything about you?" Or "You're too sensitive," or "You're the one who started this." Now something important has happened. The focus has shifted. Instead of talking about their behavior, you are now defending your reaction. And once that shift happens, the original issue disappears. Over time, this pattern creates confusion, because every time you bring up a problem, you somehow end up being the problem. Trick 2. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is one of the most powerful forms of psychological manipulation, because it targets something fundamental: your sense of reality. You remember something clearly, a conversation, a situation, a specific moment. But when you bring it up, the other person responds with certainty, "That never happened," or "You're remembering it wrong." At first, this feels like a misunderstanding, but when it happens repeatedly, something changes. You begin to doubt yourself. You start wondering, did I misunderstand? Did I exaggerate? Did I remember it wrong? And once that doubt appears, the manipulator gains control. Because now they are not just part of the conversation, they are defining reality itself. Trick 3. Playing the victim. Another powerful tactic is playing the victim. You confront someone about something they did, but instead of addressing it, they shift the emotional focus. They say things like, "I can't believe you would think that about me." Argue, "You're hurting me by saying this." Now something changes. Instead of discussing the issue, you start worrying about their feelings. You soften your tone. You try to reassure them. And suddenly, you are no longer holding them accountable. You are comforting them. This works because empathy is automatic. Humans are wired to respond to emotional distress, and manipulators use that instinct to their advantage. Trick 4. Guilt tripping. Guilt is one of the strongest emotional pressures a person can feel, and manipulators know how to trigger it. They don't argue logically, they argue emotionally. They say things like, "If you really cared about me," or "After everything I've done for you," or "I guess I'm just a terrible person." These statements are not meant to solve the problem. They are meant to create guilt. And once guilt enters the conversation, everything changes. You stop focusing on the issue. You start trying to fix their emotions, and that gives the manipulator control. Trick 5. Confusion. Have you ever had a conversation that felt like it went nowhere? You start talking about one thing, but somehow the topic keeps changing. The conversation becomes circular. Questions are never fully answered. Statements contradict each other. By the end, you feel mentally exhausted. This is not accidental. Confusion is a powerful manipulation tool. Because when people are confused, they stop questioning. And when questioning stops, control becomes easier. Trick 6. Attacking your character. When manipulators feel pressure, they often stop addressing the situation and start attacking the person. Instead of focusing on what happened, they say, "You always do this. You're impossible to talk to. You never listen." Now the conversation changes again. Instead of discussing one specific issue, you are defending your entire personality. And once that happens, the original problem disappears. This tactic works because identity attacks trigger strong emotions, and strong emotions reduce clarity. Trick 7. Silent pressure. Not all manipulation is loud. Sometimes it's silence, ignoring messages, withdrawing attention, creating distance. This creates discomfort, and humans naturally try to resolve discomfort. So you start asking yourself, did I do something wrong? Should I apologize? Should I fix this? Even when you did nothing wrong. This silent pressure creates control without words. Why manipulation works? All of these tactics rely on the same principle: emotional imbalance. When people feel confused, when they feel guilty, when they feel unsure, they become easier to influence, because instead of acting with clarity, they react emotionally, and emotional reactions are easier to control. The pattern. The most important thing to understand is this: manipulation is not about one moment, it's about patterns. Anyone can say the wrong thing once. Anyone can misunderstand a situation. But when the same behavior repeats again and again, it stops being accidental and starts becoming intentional. Breaking the cycle. The first step to breaking manipulation is recognizing it, not reacting immediately, not defending yourself instantly, but observing the pattern. Because once you see it clearly, it becomes much harder for someone to control you emotionally. Manipulation is rarely obvious. It doesn't always look like control. It often looks like normal conversation. But when certain patterns repeat, they reveal something deeper: blame shifting, gaslighting, victim reversal, guilt, confusion. These are not random behaviors. They are psychological strategies, and the moment you recognize them, you stop being controlled by them.